Detroit wasn't always kind to people like Tasha Johnson. It was a city full of stories, some loud, some quiet, but all real. Some kids grew up dreaming of becoming doctors or lawyers. Others wanted to escape the streets before they could even finish high school. Tasha? She had her own dream, one that made most people raise their eyebrows when she said it out loud. She wanted to be a car engineer. At just 17 years old, Tasha already knew more about engines than most adults. Her hands were small, but strong. From years of working under hoods with her uncle at his auto shop on Grand River Avenue. The smell of oil and gasoline didn't bother her. It felt like home. To her, every car had a heartbeat, and if something went wrong, she believed she could fix it. Tasha wasn't just good with tools. She was smart. Really smart. Her teachers often said she could have gone to college early if she wanted. But Tasha wasn't in a rush. She liked learning by doing, not just reading books. And besides, helping her uncle meant money in the bank and experience no classroom could give. It was a hot July afternoon when Richard Langston pulled into the shop. The man behind the wheel looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He wore a crisp white shirt, sunglasses, and a watch that probably cost more than Tasha's whole wardrobe. His car? A beautiful, shiny black 1967 Ford Mustang. The kind you see in movies or classic car shows. But today, the mighty Mustang wasn't roaring. It was silent. Dead. Richard turned the key again. Nothing. Just a soft click. He sighed and got out, looking around the shop. It was small, a bit dusty, and smelled like metal and motor oil. Two older mechanics were bent over another car nearby, deep in conversation. No one else seemed to notice him. Tasha, who was wiping her hands on a rag near the counter, saw him first. She watched as he checked the dashboard, then opened the hood. He looked confused, maybe even frustrated. Most rich folks didn't know much about cars unless it was how fast they could go, but this guy looked like he actually wanted to figure it out. Tasha walked over, pulling her gloves off. "Need help?" she asked, tilting her head toward the engine. Richard looked surprised. "You work here?" "Yeah," she said with a grin. "I do." He hesitated for a second, not because he doubted her. He just wasn't used to seeing a teenage girl in grease-stained jeans offering to fix a classic car. But there was something about the way she stood, confident, calm, that made him nod. "My battery's dead," he said. Tasha leaned over and took a quick look. "Could be the battery. Could also be a loose wire. Let me check." Without waiting for permission, she grabbed a flashlight and ducked under the hood. Richard watched her move with surprising ease, checking wires, listening closely, thinking through the problem like someone who had done this 100 times. "You mind if I jump-start it?" she asked. "Go ahead," he said. She pulled out jumper, cables from the wall, hooked them up carefully, and gave the car a try. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life. Richard smiled. "Nice." Tasha wiped her hands again and nodded. "Like I said, nothing big, but you might want to get the battery tested. Could be dying." He looked at her for a moment, impressed. "You're really good at this," she shrugged. "Just paying attention. Cars talk, you just gotta listen." He laughed. "That's pretty deep for a teenager." "I guess," she said, smiling again. Richard reached into his wallet and pulled out a $50 bill. "For your time." Tasha shook her head. "No need. It was quick." He paused. "You sure?" "Yep. You can thank me by not breaking down again." He chuckled, then pulled out a business card instead and handed it to her. "Well, if you ever need anything, feel free to call." Tasha glanced at the card. "Langston Industries. That the tech company?" He nodded. "Yeah. We build smart cars. Electric engines, AI stuff, high tech." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "Sounds cool." "It is," he said. "You should come by sometime. I think you'd like it." She laughed. "Me? In a place like that?" "Doubt it." Richard smiled. "Don't doubt yourself. You've got talent. People like you belong everywhere. Tasha looked at the card again, then slipped it into her back pocket. Thanks, Mr. Langston. Richard, he corrected. She nodded. See you around, Richard. As he drove away, the Mustang roaring again, Tasha went back to work. She thought about what he said, about belonging, about talent. She didn't expect anything to come from the meeting. Just another day at the shop, another broken car fixed, but sometimes life works in strange ways. And sometimes a simple act of kindness. Tasha Johnson helping a stranger with a broken car come through her uncle's auto shop on Grand River Avenue. Used car parts, broken engines, even a guy who tried to trade a goat for an oil change. But nothing could have prepared her for what showed up in the mail one rainy Thursday afternoon. It was a letter. Not just any letter, a fancy one. Thick white envelope, gold seal, printed with bold black letters. Langston Industries. Tasha almost dropped it when she saw the name. She opened, it slowly, heart-thumping like a drum solo. Inside was a formal offer, an internship at Langston Industries, full access to their automotive engineering labs, paid summer position, mentorship from top engineers, and a personal note signed by Richard Langston himself. Tasha read it twice, then a third time, just to make sure she wasn't dreaming. You're shitting me, her cousin Jamal said, leaning over her shoulder as they sat on the porch steps. The dude actually gave you a job? It's not a job, Tasha corrected, still staring at the paper. It's an internship. Jamal raised his eyebrows. That sounds like a job, but with cooler words. Tasha smiled, but inside she was nervous. Excited too, super excited, but mostly nervous. Langston Industries wasn't some corner, shop or local garage. It was a big tech company that made smart cars, electric engines, and self-driving systems. The kind of place where people wore lab coats and talked about AI like it was normal dinner conversation. And now, somehow, she was being invited to work there? She showed the letter to her physics teacher, Ms. Ellis, during lunch break the next day. Ms. Ellis adjusted her glasses and read the letter carefully. When she finished, she looked up at Tasha with wide eyes. This is huge, she whispered. I know, Tasha said. But do you think I should go? I mean, I'm just a kid from Detroit. What if I mess up? What if they realize I'm not good? Enough? Ms. Ellis smiled gently. Then you'll prove them wrong. Again. Tasha looked down. What if I can't? You can, Ms. Ellis said firmly. You have something most people don't. Real hands-on experience. You fix problems. You see things others don't. That's rare. Don't doubt yourself. Tasha nodded slowly. She wanted to believe it. She really did. Later that night, she showed the letter to her mom. Her mom worked 2 jobs, nursing home aide by day, cleaning offices at night. She didn't get much sleep, but she always made sure Tasha had everything she needed. A roof over her head, food on the table, books for school. When she saw the letter, she hugged Tasha so tight it nearly knocked the air out of her. My baby, she whispered, voice cracking. Look at you. I don't know, Mom, Tasha said. I mean, it's cool and all, but what if I fail? Her mom pulled back, cupping her daughter's face in her hands. Then you try again. That's what strong girls do. Tasha smiled. Okay. So, she accepted. First day. Jitters. Summer came fast. 1 minute Tasha was wiping grease off engine blocks in her uncle's dusty shop. The next, she was standing in front of the sleek, glass-fronted building that housed Langston Industries. It looked like something out of a movie. Shiny floors, bright lights, tall ceilings, people in crisp clothes walking with purpose, phones ringing, computers blinking. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going. Tasha felt like she'd stepped onto another planet. She walked up to the front desk, unsure of herself. Hi, she said, trying to sound confident. "I'm here for the internship program. My name's Tasha Johnson." The receptionist, a woman in a sharp blazer and red lipstick, checked her screen. "Oh yes, welcome, Miss Johnson. Mr. Langston will meet you shortly. In the meantime, someone will show you to the orientation room." A few minutes later, a young man named Ethan greeted her. He looked maybe early 20s, wearing jeans and a hoodie, but he carried himself like he belonged there. "Hey," he said, offering a hand. "I'm Ethan. I work in software development. I'll be showing you around today." Tasha shook his hand. "Thanks." As they walked through the halls, Ethan pointed out different departments. "That's the AI team," he said, nodding toward a group of people working on holographic displays. "They help design our self-driving features. And that's the battery lab," he added, passing a set of double doors. "We're working on making electric cars faster and last longer." Tasha stared, amazed. Everything was so high-tech, so clean, so perfect. She suddenly felt out of place in her old sneakers and simple t-shirt. First impressions aren't always fair. Orientation started with a welcome speech from one of the HR managers. Then, everyone got badges and laptops. Tasha followed, along, trying to keep up. But already she noticed people looking at her strangely. Whispers passed between interns and employees. "Who's the teenager? She looks like she's still in high school. Is she lost?" Tasha kept her head high, but inside, she felt the sting. She knew this would happen. She wasn't naive, but knowing it and feeling it were two very different things. At lunch, she sat alone in the cafeteria, picking at her sandwich. A few tables away, a group of interns laughed loudly, talking about college parties and internships they'd had before. Tasha took a deep breath. She reminded herself why she was here. Not to impress anyone, not to fit in, to learn, to grow, to prove that talent doesn't care about age or background. Just then, someone slid into the seat across from her. It was Ethan. "Mind if I join?" he asked. Tasha smiled. "Go ahead." He glanced at her untouched food. "Rough first day?" She shrugged. "Kinda. Feels like everyone thinks I don't belong here." Ethan shook his head. "Don't worry. They'll figure it out soon enough." "Figure what out?" "That you're smarter than half of them combined." Tasha laughed softly. "Thanks." The moment. Everything changed. 2 days into the internship, something happened that changed everything. The engineering team was working on a new prototype engine. Something wasn't right with the system. It kept overheating during tests. Engineers ran diagnostics, checked wiring, reprogrammed controls. Nothing worked. Frustration filled the lab. Tasha stood quietly in the corner, watching. She didn't say anything at first. She didn't want to interrupt. But after listening to the problem for a while, something clicked. She remembered fixing a similar issue back at her uncle's shop. A loose sensor in the cooling system. It wasn't obvious unless you looked closely. Finally, she raised her hand. Excuse me?" Everyone turned. Some looked annoyed. Others surprised. Even Ethan looked shocked. "Yes?" one of the lead engineers asked. "I think I might know." "What's wrong?" Tasha said, stepping forward. There was a pause. Then the engineer raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What do you think it is?" Tasha explained quickly, pointing out the sensor location and how a faulty reading could trick the system into thinking the engine was fine when it wasn't. Silence. Then one of the engineers checked the sensor. It was faulty. They replaced it. The engine ran smoothly. The room erupted in murmurs. In just 5 minutes, Tasha had solved a problem that had been stumping the team for hours. After that day, no one questioned her anymore. From that point on, Tasha wasn't the teenage intern. She was Tasha Johnson, the girl who fixed the unfixable, and her journey at Langston Industries was only just beginning. After solving the engine overheating problem, Tasha Johnson stopped being just an intern at Langston Industries. People started paying attention to her. Engineers asked for her opinion during meetings. Programmers wanted her help testing new systems. Even the CEO's office had taken notice, but no one was more impressed than Richard Langston himself. He had seen a lot of young talent come through his company over the years. Ivy League graduates, child prodigies, Silicon Valley kids who'd been coding since they were 6. But Tasha was different. She didn't just understand machines, she talked to them. So he decided to take her under his wing. A special mentor from that point on, Richard began spending time with Tasha personally. At first it was small things, lunch breaks, quick chats about car design, or walking through the labs together. Then it turned into full-on mentorship. He introduced her to top engineers and designers. He let her sit in on big meetings. He even gave her access to his private workspace, a high-tech garage where only a few trusted employees were allowed. There, they worked side by side on special projects. One of those projects was something Tasha had dreamed up back when she was still working at her uncle's shop. A low-cost electric conversion kit for classic cars. Most people thought converting old engines to electric was too expensive or too complicated, but Tasha believed otherwise. With Richard's support, she built a prototype. It was small, simple, and affordable, but powerful. It could turn any classic car into a clean, modern electric vehicle without losing its original look or feel. When she presented it to the engineering team, jaws dropped. Richard stood at the back, smiling proudly. "This is exactly why I brought you here," he said later that day. "You see what others don't, and you make it happen." Tasha smiled, but inside she felt nervous. "You really think so?" she asked. "I know so," Richard replied. "You're going to change this industry someday, Isal." The ring one afternoon, after a long day of testing the electric kit, Richard handed Tasha a small box. "Here," he said. "This is for you." Tasha looked at him, confused. "What is it?" "Open it," he said with a grin. Inside was a silver ring. Simple, elegant, with tiny engravings along the edge. "It's not much," Richard said, "but it means something. My father gave it to me when I was your age. It's tradition in my family. We give it to young minds who show real potential." "You've earned it." Tasha stared at the ring in awe. She didn't know what to say. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know what else to say." Richard laughed. "Just wear it. Let it remind you who you are and what you're capable of." She nodded slowly and slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Whispers. Start at first. Nothing changed. Tasha kept working hard, learning fast, and earning respect from everyone around her. But soon whispers began. Some employees noticed how close she and Richard seemed, how often they met alone, how he always seemed to be watching her during presentations. Then came the rumors. She's dating him. She's using him for money. He's giving her everything because he likes her. The comments started quietly, in break rooms behind closed doors, but as days passed, they grew louder. Even Ethan, her friend from orientation, pulled her aside one day. "Hey," he said carefully. "I hope you know some people are talking." Tasha frowned. "About what?" "About you and Mr. Langston." She rolled her eyes. "Come on, Ethan. We're just working together." "I know," he said. "But people don't see it that way." Tasha sighed. "Why does nobody believe anything good can happen without drama?" Ethan shrugged. "Because people like drama." Still, the rumors spread. They weren't just in the office anymore. They were online. The picture that changed everything. One Friday morning, Tasha arrived at work and found everyone staring at their phones. She opened hers. There it was. Picture. Her and Richard, standing outside a car show they'd attended together the night before. They were laughing, holding drinks, dressed nicely. The caption? Tech billionaire and teen prodigy. Love or exploitation? Tasha's heart dropped. She read the article. It speculated about their relationship. Said Richard was too close to a teenage girl. Called the internship unusual. Even questioned whether the ring was a romantic gift. She felt sick. She hadn't done anything wrong. Richard hadn't either. But now, the whole world was painting a story that wasn't true. That afternoon, she went to his office. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I never meant for this to happen." Richard looked tired. He rubbed his temples. "It's not your fault," he said. "People will always find something to talk about." "But it's hurting you," Tasha said. "Your reputation." Richard shook his head. "My reputation is built on decades of work. One rumor won't erase that. But still." "I'll handle it," he said. "Don't worry, Nantanior." Damage control by Monday. Langston Industries released a short statement. Mr. Richard Langston and Miss Tasha Johnson share a professional mentor-mentee relationship. The recent media speculation is unfounded and untrue. Mr. Langston values education, youth development, and innovation, and has chosen to support young talents like Ms. Johnson through mentorship programs. The statement helped calm things down, but not completely. Tasha still felt the stares, the whispers, and, worse, some people still didn't believe it. Even some of her fellow interns acted differently around her, like she had somehow cheated to get where she was. Standing tall one day, Tasha walked into the lab and overheard two engineers talking. "I mean, she's smart and all," one said. "But do you really think she fixed that engine all by herself?" The other laughed. "Nah, probably had help from the boss." Tasha froze. She could have walked away, pretended she didn't hear, but instead she stepped forward. "I did fix it," she said firmly. "All by myself. If you want proof, I can walk you through it step by step." They looked surprised. She continued, "I'm not here because of favors. I'm here because I earned it. So unless you've got something useful to say, maybe stop wasting time talking about stuff you don't understand." Silence filled the room. Then one of them finally said, "Okay, fair enough." From that moment on, the lab respected her again. Not because of her age, not because of the ring, but because of her skills, because of her strength, because of who she was. Tasha knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. People would always have opinions, always try to twist stories. But she also knew something else. No matter what anyone said, she belonged. And she wasn't going anywhere. The storm didn't just pass through once, it kept coming back. After the photo of Tasha and Richard went viral, the internet exploded. Some people believed the official statement from Langston Industries. Others didn't. Social media was filled with comments. "Why is a rich man spending so much time with a teenage girl? That ring looks like an engagement ring to me. She's using him for money. He's taking advantage of her." Even news channels started talking about it. Reporters camped outside the Langston Industries building. Some followed Tasha after work, asking questions she wasn't ready to answer. One reporter even cornered her at a coffee shop. "Tasha," he called out, holding up a microphone. "How old were you when you first met Mr. Langston?" "I'm not doing interviews," she said quickly, trying to walk away. But he kept following. "Are you in a relationship with him? Was that ring a gift from love or business?" Tasha turned around angry now. "No, it's not like that. We're mentor and mentee. That's all." The reporter smiled like he'd won something. "So you admit he's your mentor?" "Yes," she said. "And I'm proud of that." He helped me grow. He gave me a chance. Then she walked off, heart pounding. She knew the truth, Richard knew the truth, but the world didn't seem to care. Pressure. From all sides inside Langston Industries, things were getting tense. Investors started calling. Some asked questions. Others threatened to pull funding unless Richard cut ties with Tasha. People are starting to see this as a liability, one board member told him during a meeting. We don't want this company dragged into scandal. Richard sat silently for a moment. Then he said, I've built this company on innovation, integrity, and giving opportunities to those who deserve them. Tasha Johnson deserves every chance she's been given. And I won't let fear or gossip change that. But he knew he couldn't stay silent forever. If he didn't address the situation clearly, the damage could hurt not just his reputation, but Tasha's future too. A press release that changed everything. A few days later, Langston Industries released a new statement. This time it was longer, clearer, stronger. Mr. Richard Langston and Miss Tasha Johnson share a professional mentor-mentee relationship. The silver ring seen on Miss Johnson's finger is not a romantic symbol. It is a family heirloom traditionally given by the Langston family to young individuals who show exceptional promise in their field. Mr. Langston believes in investing in youth talent and has long supported programs aimed at empowering underrepresented voices in STEM fields. Miss Johnson is one such individual, a brilliant young engineer who solved a critical engineering issue within days of joining our team. We urge the public to respect the privacy of both individuals and refrain from spreading false narratives. The press release hit the web like a thunderclap. News outlets picked it up instantly. Some headlines changed. Ring not romantic. Family heirloom given to young prodigy. Langston clears the air about internship relationship rumors. Teen engineer stands tall amid misunderstandings. Still, not everyone believed it, but many did. And for the first time since the rumors began, the tide started to turn. Tasha speaks out. Tasha had stayed quiet for weeks. She didn't want attention. She didn't want to be a headline, but after seeing how hard Richard fought to protect her name, she realized she couldn't hide forever. She owed the world the truth, not just for herself, but for other kids like her, kids who came from places where nobody expected much, kids who got chances they earned, not because of luck or favoritism. So she agreed to do a short interview with a local Detroit news station. Not live, not national, just small, safe. When the day came, she wore her usual jeans and hoodie. No makeup, just herself. The reporter asked her, Tasha, can you tell us what really happened between you and Mr. Langston? Tasha took a deep breath. There's nothing romantic going on, she said firmly. Nothing ever has been. He saw my potential and gave me a chance. That's it. What about the ring? The reporter asked. It's not an engagement ring, Tasha said. It's a symbol of support, of belief in someone's future. And honestly, it meant a lot to me. Because growing up, no one ever gave me anything like that. The reporter nodded. Do you feel like people have judged you unfairly? Tasha looked straight into the camera. Yes, she said. I've worked hard my whole life. I've fixed cars since I was 13. I've learned everything I know by doing, not by being handed things. But when people see a rich man helping a poor black girl, they assume the worst. They never think maybe he sees something special. Her voice softened. But he did. And I'm grateful. The interview aired that night. By morning, social media was full of posts supporting her. Proud of this girl? Finally, someone says it like it is. More power to her. Let her shine. Even some celebrities shared the clip. Tasha Johnson was no longer just a rumor. She was a symbol of talent, of strength, of truth. Richard steps up. Meanwhile, Richard faced his own battles. At investor meetings, he was questioned again and again. Why? Her? Why now? Why risk your reputation? Each time he answered the same way. Because talent doesn't care about age or background. It only cares about effort and results. Tasha proved herself. I believed in her. And I'll always stand behind young people who fight for their dreams. One older investor finally leaned forward and asked, "Do you regret bringing her in?" Richard shook his head without hesitation. "No," he said. "I only regret that more people don't give kids like her a shot." Silence followed. Then slow claps. Then applause. Even the skeptics had to admit, Richard Langston wasn't backing down, and neither was Tasha. A new kind of respect. After the dust settled, things slowly returned to normal. Sure, there were still whispers. But now, people whispered something different. She's legit. He really believes in her. They're just mentor and mentee. Even inside the office, attitudes shifted. Engineers stopped doubting her. Interns stopped avoiding her. Ethan joked one day, "You know you're kind of famous now, right?" Tasha laughed. "Ugh, don't remind me." But deep down, she felt proud. She hadn't backed down. She hadn't hidden. She stood tall, and the world listened. A bond unbroken. One afternoon, Richard found Tasha working alone in the lab. He leaned against the door frame and watched her for a moment. She was focused, adjusting wires on a prototype engine. Her hands moved fast and sure. He smiled. "You okay?" he asked. She looked up. "Yeah, more than okay." He walked over and stood beside her. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said. "For what?" "For standing up for yourself. For not letting anyone twist your story." Tasha shrugged. "It's the truth. Someone had to say it." Richard nodded. "You did more than say it. You showed the world who you really are." She smiled softly. "Thanks, Richard." He looked at her hand. The ring was still there. "You keeping it?" he asked. "Always," she said. "It means too much." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good," he said, "because this is just the beginning." Time passed like wind through an open car window. Tasha Johnson was no longer the teenage girl who fixed a Mustang on a hot summer day. She was now a young woman with a mission, and the world was finally ready to listen. A new chapter after. The rumors died down and the spotlight softened. Life at Langston Industries returned to normal. But not for Tasha. She had grown. Not just older, but stronger, more confident, more driven. She spent her last year of high school splitting time between classes and the lab at Langston Industries. Her teachers were amazed by how much she'd changed. Not just in knowledge, but in presence. She carried herself differently now, like someone who knew where she was going, like someone who belonged. Her physics teacher, Ms. Ellis, pulled her aside one afternoon. "I just got a call," she said with a proud smile. "MIT wants to talk to you." Tasha blinked. "MIT?" Ms. Ellis nodded. "They saw your work at Langston Industries. They want to offer you a chance to apply early." Tasha couldn't believe it. MIT, one of the top engineering schools in the world. It felt like something from another life, but it was real, and she wasn't going to waste it. Saying goodbye. The day before she left for college, Tasha visited Richard at his office. She knocked on the door gently. "Come in," he called. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "You're really leaving tomorrow?" he asked. Tasha nodded. "Yeah, early flight." Richard stood up and walked over. He gave her a hug, the kind that says more than words ever could. "I'm so proud of you," he said. "I wouldn't be here without you," she replied. He shook his head. "You would have made it anyway." "I just gave you a push," she smiled. "Still, thanks for the push." They sat together for a while just talking, about the past, about what came next, about all the things they hoped to build in the future. Then Tasha reached into her bag and pulled out something small. The silver ring. She placed it in his hand. "I think this belongs to you now," she said. Richard looked surprised. "You don't have to give it back." "I know," she said, "but I want to, so you can give it to someone else, someone who needs it." Richard looked at the ring for a long moment. Then he closed his fingers around it and nodded. "You sure you won't miss it?" She laughed. "I'll always remember it, but I've got my own path now." Richard smiled. "That you do." College and Confidence College was hard. Not just the work, though that was tough enough, but the pressure, the expectations, the feeling of being watched, again. Because now people knew who she was, the Detroit prodigy, the Langston intern, the teen engineer who went viral. Some students respected her, others doubted her. But Tasha didn't let any of it stop her. She worked harder than ever. She joined engineering clubs. She led student projects. She even started a program to help underprivileged kids get hands-on experience with cars and tech. By her second year, she was known not just as the Tasha Johnson, but as one of the brightest minds in her class, and she loved every minute of it. Richard's steps. Back meanwhile, Richard Langston decided it was time for a change. For years he had run Langston Industries with passion and precision. But he wanted to focus on something bigger, something deeper. Education, inspiration, youth empowerment. So he stepped back from daily operations at the company and created the Langston Foundation for Young Innovators, a program designed to help kids from underserved communities get access to STEM education, mentorship, and hands-on learning opportunities. He traveled across the country, speaking at schools, hosting workshops, and giving kids the same chance he gave Tasha. In interviews, reporters often asked him, "Why are you doing this now?" And he always gave the same answer. "Because I learned something important from a young mechanic named Tasha Johnson. That talent doesn't care about where you come from. It only cares about how hard you work." And then he'd smile and say, "I just want to help more kids find their way." Reunion years later, at a major auto tech conference in Chicago, Tasha stood backstage. She was 24 now, no longer a student, no longer an intern. Now she was the CEO of her own startup, Green Gear Motors, a company that built electric conversion kits for classic cars, just like the idea she first brought to Richard years ago. Only now, it was real, it was working, and it was changing the industry. As she waited to walk onto the stage, someone tapped her shoulder. She turned around. There he was. Richard, smiling, looking exactly the same, except maybe a little more relaxed. "You ready?" he asked. Tasha took a deep breath. "Yeah, just nervous." He handed her something, the silver ring. "I kept it safe," he said, "just in case you ever needed a reminder." She stared at it for a moment, then she slipped it onto her finger. "It's perfect," she whispered. Richard patted her arm. "Go show them what you're made of." She nodded, and she did. The speech that inspired a generation on stage. Tasha stood tall. Behind her, a giant screen showed a classic Ford Mustang, now fully electric. She spoke clearly, confidently. "My name is Tasha Johnson," she began. "I grew up in Detroit, fixing cars with my uncle in a dusty garage on Grand River Avenue. I never thought I'd be standing here today, presenting my own company at a global tech conference." She paused. "But I am. And I'm not alone." She pointed to the audience. "There are hundreds of kids watching this live from schools across the country. Kids who look like me, who come from places where nobody expects much." She smiled. "But let me tell you something." She leaned forward. "You can make it. You can break barriers. You can change the world." Applause filled the room. When it quieted, she added softly, "All you need is one person to believe. In you." She looked at Richard, sitting in the front row. "And if you're lucky, that person will hand you a ring and say, 'Your turn!'" The crowd erupted, cheering, standing, believing. A legacy. Begins later that night, Richard found Tasha outside the conference hall. She was looking up at the city lights, smiling. "That was beautiful," he said. "Thanks," she replied. "Feels weird saying all that out loud." He chuckled. "You should get used to it. People are going to be listening to you for a long time." She looked at him. "Do you think I'm making a difference?" He nodded. "You already are." They stood there for a while, just enjoying the moment. Then Tasha turned to him. "I think I know who gets the ring next," she said. Richard raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? Who?" She grinned. "A kid I met last week. She's 15, loves engines, got grease under her nails and fire in her eyes." Richard laughed. "Sounds familiar." Tasha nodded. "Yeah, she reminds me of someone I used to know." Then she looked at him seriously. "Thank you, Richard, for everything." He smiled warmly. "No," he said. "Thank you, Tasha." Nanteril. The road ahead. From that day on, Tasha Johnson became more than just a name. She became a symbol of hope, of progress, of the power of belief. And Richard Langston? He became the man who helped start it all. Their story was proof that sometimes a simple act, helping a stranger fix a broken car, could spark something huge. Sometimes a ring isn't just jewelry. Sometimes a mentor isn't just a teacher. And sometimes a teenager with big dreams can change the world. All it takes is one chance, one believer, one moment, and the courage to take it.